Thanksgiving is a beloved holiday that brings family and friends together. Sadly, in the wake of last week's horrific gun violence, we're coming together for quite different reasons. As Martha Teichner shows us, memorials to these tragedies are now part of the American landscape.
Club Q, active shooter, all units respond.
It's all so sickeningly repetitive. Another gay nightclub, 5 dead, at least 18 wounded in Colorado Springs. 3 days later, another Walmart, 7 dead, including the gunman in Chesapeake, Virginia. Mass shooting number 607 this year in the United States, according to the Gun Violence Archive. But believe it or not, there were at least 8 others last week. And when the vigils have stopped and the makeshift shrines are bedraggled, what then? How does the story of what happened get told, and who gets to tell it?
Those who perished and their families will not be forgotten.
In El Paso, Texas, a pillar of light with 22 beams shines out from the parking lot of that other Walmart, where 22 people were gunned down on August 3rd, 2019. Walmart moved fast. The Grand Candela, as it's called, went up in 3.5 months and was dedicated before a 23rd victim died. 6 years and counting after 49 people were killed here at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida, the other LGBTQ bar. You can still see bullet holes in the building, which remains a temporary memorial. The fight over what a permanent memorial should look like makes clear just how messy and contentious memorializing mass shootings can be.
Barbara is a powerful force in this community, and for some people, a lightning rod.
Deborah Bowie is the executive director of the One Pulse Foundation, hired recently after criticism of Barbara Poma, co-owner of the nightclub.
It is our responsibility to make sure that everyone knows what happened at Pulse.
Poma established the foundation. Its purpose? To raise the tens of millions of dollars needed to build an entire Pulse campus, incorporating the club, a memorial, and a separate museum several blocks away.
I miss Pulse.
The foundation now calls Poma the keeper of the story.
We want control over the Pulse name, the Pulse physical location, the building, so that we can control our own tragedy. It's our tragedy. It's not Barbara Poma's tragedy.
Christine Leinenen's son, Christopher, and his boyfriend, Juan Ramon Guerrero, died in the Pulse shooting.
It's painful. It never ends. Christopher was the light of my life, and the light's gone. That's Juan, Christopher.
Leinenen is one of dozens of survivors and victims' family members who have sued club owners Poma and her husband, claiming they were negligent at the site and contributed to the loss of life, a claim they deny. Leinenen considers the museum exploitation and wants it stopped. 20 years from now, 30 years from now, people aren't going to remember the shooting. Is there a need to tell the story of what happened?
Well, maybe if you could trust the storytellers. There is no trust.
The museum is not to monetize or exploit tragedy. The museum will be part of the entire Pulse experience. We engage with the families frequently. The family members tell the story.
And what is that story?
There are 6 words that came out of the initial survey that have become part of our vision, right, our value statement. And they are love, hope, unity, acceptance, courage, and strength.
9 white ribbons were placed outside the Emmanuel AME Church in tribute to the victims.
We have no room for hate, so we have to forgive.
Forgiveness was the word that loved ones of the Charleston Nine chose after a white supremacist opened fire during an evening prayer service at Mother Emanuel AME Church in 2015. We are one! The watching world was amazed at the response. How important was forgiveness in creating the type of memorial that you've chosen to have?
It was very important. Some people have the thought process to say, oh, because they forgave so quickly, it was easy for them. No. Oh, no, definitely not. It still causes pain to this day.
The Reverend Eric Manning's predecessor as senior pastor, the Reverend Clemente Pinckney, was killed in the shooting.
So this is pretty much where the fellowship benches will be. You'll have
here
one here.
And here?
Yes.
7 years later, the $20 million memorial Mother Emanuel is planning will be about remembering the dead on one side of the church and celebrating the survivors on the other.
There is no righteous indignation. There is no anger.
But should there be? Memorials to mass shootings have become the expensive public art versions of condolence cards for a society in pain. Most omit any imagery suggesting that heinous acts of gun violence are the reason they exist.
When you see the calls for the competitions, like there's a new one that just came out, and we talked about this in our studio, we're not going to go after it. I am more interested in the articulation of the real issue for these, which is the violence.
And yet, it was to bring comfort to grieving families that landscape architect Walter Hood designed San Bernardino, California's graceful, undulating curtain of courage. 14 personalized alcoves for the 14 people killed by terrorists here in 2015. Among the dead, Damien Mines.
Does it help with the healing process? I think it helps to remember.
But for mother and daughter, Trenna and Tina Mines, though, building memorial after memorial is not enough.
It doesn't help in the sense that there are still shootings after shootings after shootings.
I think these memorials should memorialize the people that lost their lives. I think it should also, at the same time, be a call to action, a reminder that this could happen anywhere to anyone, and it shouldn't have to. It shouldn't have to, and it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to.